Hello, guys, and welcome back to Four Piece and a Pod. I am Conch, one of your four hosts of this podcast. We also have here Belle.
Hello.
We have Andre
Hi.
and Yanni.
Hi.
So, Four Piece and a Pod is a podcast about friendship, quarter life crisis, and discovering life after music school. Yes, we are all music major graduates, specifically from the UP College of Music. Every week, we talk about topics relating to music, adulting, and our own experiences and whatever we want. If you have questions or something in mind that you want us to talk about, then feel free to send us an email at fourpieceandapod@gmail.com. If you're watching on YouTube, feel free to comment down below, subscribe, and give us a like. Also, follow us on Spotify. And if you're listening on Spotify, hello, please head over to YouTube to give us a like and subscribe too. But yeah, I am happy to say that we have a guest today because we are going to talk about something different. It's about majors in our college that's sorta, I would say, not really like known ish. I am not sure. But anyway, we're going to be talking about being a musicology/Asian music major and also being a conducting major. Our guest, our friend, is here with us to help. She comes from a family of musicians and graduated from the college as well. She took a diploma in creative performing musical arts, or DCPMA as we shorten it in the college, under Asian music and majored in the Kolintang. You should research what the Kolintang is if you don't know what it is and give it a listen because it's amazing. She then followed her DCPMA with a Bachelor's of Music degree in choral conducting. So let us now welcome our wonderful friend, Ate Liya Dioquino. Woohoo! Clap,
Hello.
clap. Thank you, thank you.
All right. So before we get into it, kumusta kayo guys? How was your week? Because mine was pretty uneventful.
Define uneventful.
Uneventful, kain, tulog, Netflix, new shows up. But other
Have
than
you
that,
watched the new show,
which one?
the
Uh,
Trese? Tama ba?
yeah, the Trece one.
Have you watched it?
I have thoughts. I
I haven't
have.
watched it, so yeah.
It's in
It's
my list, but
nice.
I haven't
It's
started
nice.
watching it.
We all know the opinion kay Liza.
Izzy has opinions. Izzy has
No,
opinions.
it's not. This podcast is not about her. So
Shout out kay Madam Eliza.
I'm gonna jump. Para wala tayo dun. My week has also been uneventful. Same thing. Eat, sleep, turo, laro, complain, ganun.
I think my week was okay. Ano ba ginawa ko last week? We celebrated my dad's 60th.
Oh wow,
Oh,
happy
happy
birthday po,
birthday.
Tito.
Happy
Tito
birthday
talaga.
to him.
Yeah. Wala kaming gift.
Oh, Yanni.
Okay lang yan. The gift
I'm
of
poor.
love.
60th pa
Diba?
naman.
Ganun yan.
Yeah, my week was very, very fun. My weekend especially kasi I went to the beach. So, I got that well-deserved R&R. Tapos sa Cavite lang naman. So, wala naman super intense travel restrictions. But anyway, let's go to Atelia. I want to know how your week has been. Kasi kaming apat, lagi naman kaming magkausap. So, we kind of know how everyone's week goes. Atelia, how have you been doing?
Ayun, this week I started my remedial classes in Miriam. So I've been teaching every day. It's something kind of new to me that I'm seeing my students every day. So that's also an experience. I'm starting to cram the way I used to cram in college. And also, I got my vaccine yesterday. So actually, I'm very well rested today because
Buti
medyo
pala
may side effects
yesterday mo siya
kanina.
nakuha.
Oo, actually.
Kasi kung hindi,
Yeah.
groggy. Ganon.
True.
Yeah, that's true. Ang bigat ng pakiramdam after vaccine.
One quick catch up because we haven't talked in a while. Besides teaching, are you doing anything else?
Am I doing anything else? Parang everything has been related to teaching, but I'm still rehearsing I'm still rehearsing with Cherubim right now. There is a project that we are working on. It's a recital of one of my mentors. So it's a very big project and it's very stressful, but it's allowed the kids to see each other every week pa rin, to still continue learning together in some way.
Yeah, that's good. Kasi I'm wondering how choirs are working right now given the pandemic. Like for someone like you na nasa music sector ng Philippines obviously and involved in a lot of projects and you're a teacher, tas you're a performer, you're a conductor. How have you guys been coping with that?
Honestly, the choir, I had to take a leave around August last year just to focus on my teaching, but we returned around January this year. We've been doing a lot of virtual choirs, but that really doesn't capture the dynamic of, the usual choral singing. So it's been a struggle. It's been a struggle even on my end, redefining my role as a conductor because at the end of the day, the best thing we can do right now is to teach. The best thing we can do right now is to teach and just prepare them for when we all come back.
Yeah, that's amazing na you're still able to, handle virtual performances and to continue to that. Given that you have so many projects, you have so many projects related to music, you have so many work. Parang how were you able to decide given na you're from a family of musicians, tapos 'di ba sabi mo nga na you're a second generation musician. Parang when did you really realize even when you were younger na I'm going to pursue music? And maybe you can share with us rin how being part of family of musicians affected yun nga yung decision mo to be a musician, and then maybe you can discuss ultimately your path on pursuing music.
I think for me, it was something so ingrained in our family to just be surrounded by different kinds of music in general that I didn't really think about taking it as a major or just majoring in music. I don't think about majoring in music until much, much later. My dad was actually the one who told me na, Leah, you might want to explore a career in music. And I was, I wanted to take I wanted to go into med school when I
Oh,
was in high
really?
school. Yeah, I wanted to go into med school. But my dad sat me down. He was like, "Can you please just take the entrance exam for my sanity?" And okay, wala namang mawawala sa akin if I do that. So I took the entrance exam to the college. During that time, I was preparing for a piano performance. I don't remember which one it was. I think it was PTJP when I was in high school. And I came home crying. I came home crying. I was like really frustrated. And then my dad laughed at me. Sabi niya sa akin, you know what? You wouldn't be crying if you didn't care so much about your music. I think that was the moment. Yeah, I think I must really love it. And that really changed the course of things. So I focused on my auditions sa College of Music. I did, however, audition for a different major.
Oh,
I auditioned
really?
for a different major.
Did you
Yes.
audition for dance?
Dance talaga.
Joke lang. I did not audition for dance. It's in the same department.
You auditioned for voice?
I auditioned for voice. I did not pass
Oh.
the voice exams. I did not pass the voice auditions. I entered the college through an appeal. Yeah, it was an appeal to to the musicology department, which houses also the DCPMA for Asian music. The only condition for my acceptance was that I had to stay in the department for 2 years. So that was my admission to the College of Music.
But you ended up finishing it, no? I mean to DCPMA.
Yes, I ended up finishing it because I was thinking 2 years required, 4 years to finish the course. Although it did take longer, that was already generally like halfway through. So it didn't make sense to shift out anymore.
I just wanted to circle back to your dad. You were saying, was your dad a musician too?
No, my dad was not a musician. His inside joke is that, he loves music, but music doesn't love him back. So I think part of him pushing me to be a music major was his frustration.
But he doesn't play any instruments.
He sings for fun,
I see.
but
For
he has
fun.
he has like zero sense of rhythm, and he knows it. So sorry, Dad, not really. So,
Grabe, you're very fortunate for your dad. Kasi,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a very uncommon music story, no? Because normally it's the other way around. Like parents asking children, begging them not to pursue music instead of pushing
Yeah.
them to actually pursue music.
Yeah, the funny thing is my grandmother, who is the actual musician from in our family, did not want me to take music. She was
Why?
Why though? Is it okay to ask why?
she never answered me. Every time that I would ask her what's the audition process for the College of Music, her answer would be, "Oh, don't you want to take some other course?" I think the only time she finally said, "Okay, here's the audition process," was when I said I wanted to become a pilot like my grandfather, and she was like, "Heck no, not gonna happen."
Yun lang pala yung dapat tinapon sa kanya
Oo.
para sagutin ka.
Yeah.
So speaking of yung Asian music nga and you did 4 years, kasi we did an episode, I think that was episode 2 of our podcast na day in the life of each major, each of our majors. Tas we just discussed, for example, the curriculum or what we do or yung mga quirks ng
How our
major
day
na yun.
was. Ganun.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe you can walk us through being an Asian music major and maybe what you loved about it, what your frustrations were.
Or maybe, I mean, I was also thinking, baka kasi people are wondering, what is Asian music or the musicology department? It's very different kasi, di
I
ba?
agree. One of Asian music life, it feels so far away because I actually did not take 4 years. I took a little more than 4 years in the Asian music department. I entered the college thinking I was gonna shift out after 2 years. So to be really honest, I didn't take my first semester very seriously. So there was that, but also I started really falling in love with Asian music and just performing for the department. It was a bunch of recitalists. We had a bunch of recitalists one semester. Tapos they had to pull performers from the younger years already because there were so many majors or there were so many performances that the seniors could not handle it anymore.
Could you share a little bit why usually sa department nyo naghahatak-hatak kayo ng mga tao?
Yeah. This was one of the reasons why I fell in love with it. It's because it's generally very ensemble based, meaning we really have to work with each other. The kulintang, which is my major. Well, during our time, it was the only available major actually. Now there's Rondalia, Koto. I don't know if there are
So
additional
automatic
ones in
before,
kulintang.
pagpasok mo Asian music, kulintang ka lang?
Yes, kulintang
Oh.
major. So ako, dire-diretso ako sa kulintang talaga. To the ire probably of my advice. Not my advisor, my major teacher. Because we didn't really, I didn't get along with a number of my teachers for a while. But that was my fault. That was entirely my fault.
For Asian music, do you also have like minors or meron ba kayong required like concentration?
I think this is where my frustrations with the department come in.
Ay, okay.
We had 3 minors. We were required 3 minors up to 41. So 4 semesters of 3 minors on top of our majors. So I mean, it's one thing that the minors would just take 30 minutes of your week, 30 minutes of your week because that's just the lesson. But you have to prepare for it the same way that you prepare for your major, basically, because you still have to be equally proficient in those instruments. And the thing is, when it comes to our recital in the Asian music department, we don't just play our major instrument. We have to play all 3 minors. So that's what makes it quite difficult. That you can't really, it's hard to balance the time that you have to spend with a certain instrument.
I thought na madami na yung minor ng music ed with 2. Kayo tatlo pala. I didn't realize that.
Tatlo.
Wait, so you had to take these ng sabay-sabay?
Yes.
What
To
Oh,
an
wow.
extent, yes.
Kasi the usual minors I know is like, oh, this person went voice, this person went violin or piano.
Our
Or-
minors were also Asian music instruments. So for me, what did I take? I don't remember anymore. I had Afro Latin. I had an Afro Latin minor. I had Chinese. I think I did I did the pipa for a semester but gave it up because it coincided it no, did not coincide. It went like the total other way with my piano training. So it was a bad idea. And then I also did koto. So those were my three minors.
So you were able to only practice these minors or even your major in the college? Or for example, did you have a personal kulintang or personal koto?
I did not have a personal koto or Afro Latin instruments or the Chinese instrument. I'm grateful though that I did have. Well, it wasn't in my house. It was in my grandmother's house. So I would go to my grandmother's house to practice. We had a kulintang there. The reality is, I was lucky. The rest of my department mates did not have that luxury. One, but also I don't think I spent a lot of time during my latter years in my grandmother's house because, like I said earlier, the music making when it comes to Asian music is always so communal. So it makes more sense to practice with the people that you perform with. Yeah, it just doesn't make sense to practice on your own a lot of times sa kulintang.
That's also kind of the reason why you guys have the org, diba? You guys have tugma.
Yeah, Tugma was founded for the recitals, actually. Tugma was founded for to help the Asian music majors just put together everything because it is very difficult to put together that recital because like I said, we have to perform all instruments and all instruments are ensembles, basically. So let's say I have 5 people for the Kulintang ensemble, I have 10 people for the Chinese ensemble, 6 people for the Afro Latin, and I have 10 more people for the gamelan. I mean, we have to cycle through people din naman. We don't want to torture our accompanists also. I mean, but honestly, because we perform for each other, when it comes to our recital, you're actually very comfortable already because you're performing with the same people. You just rotate instruments basically.
And you know what? I have to give it to your department. Pansin ko kasi sa dami-dami ng recitals, yung Asian music, they give one of the best performances
Yeah,
lagi and the most
visually.
organized. Hindi lang visually, even if you're working as
Behind the
someone
scenes.
behind the stage,
Yeah.
backstage, ang ayos ng organization. And parang kami rin, if we do our recitals, even if we are from a different department, usually we get people from Asian music kasi sila yung for some reason yon maalam and sanay na kahit anong iharap mong problem, gets na nila kung paano kung paano nila sosolusyonan and they're not phased at all.
Sa mga napanood ko yung recitals, no, Asian music, usually yung parang sila yung may mga unique settings, unique setup, and normally very interactive. Almost lahat yata ng Asian music na, like, antag ito, na recital na na-attendan ko, one way or another, like, they incorporate an interactive, like, performance with the audience or, like, with how the setup is. Yeah, like, very memorable recitals from Asian music.
Honestly, I'm glad it has evolved to that because I think during our time, like I said, I was in the college for a very long time. So it's been a while since I've been part of those productions. It's changed a lot. Back then, the big challenge for us was how to recreate that experience na hindi it doesn't become repetitive because like I said, there was a time that we had 8 recitalists. And sometimes, you have a very limited repertoire. You have a very limited repertoire available to us. So, how do you make it interesting? How do you make her recital different from his recital? Na it's not just the people who are rotating. Na how do you make it interesting? For my recital specifically, for my graduation recital, I remember really wanting to incorporate choral music already because I had already decided to shift at that point. I decided to incorporate it, and I think during that time, it was during that time that we discovered that we had a lot of opportunities to explore different ways that we can include Asian instruments in different kinds of music. Because for a while, one of my other ires about being an Asian music major, especially during our time, we were very separated in the college. Na it's the rest of the majors versus the Asian music majors who are very quote unquote different. Because the music that we learn is again, quote unquote, different. And I think the separation came from both parties. There was a lot of feeling that we shouldn't include ourselves in a certain place in certain performances. Parang, oh, it's not for Asian music. So we would just stick to each other. That's one of the things that I noticed during my time there. And also from the outside, there are also there are honestly also judgments. I Asian music major kasi siya. So they'd give us flack for it. And I think that's changed a bit during my time in the college, which is good. I mean, I'm glad it has changed a lot.
I think that also contributes to the fact na mas naging communal kayo because I guess of yung mga ganong mga cliques din sa college. Pero other than that, I really appreciate yung chemistry that Asian music majors create kasi nga they have so much experience performing together and just in general performing, and I think tugma, and for our listeners who don't know, it's tugtugang musika asiatica. That's short for that. Especially yung future generations ng tugma. I think they have a lot of experience na mga gigs outside, not just in the college. So they really create this sort of chemistry that they're able to translate in their performances. And you mentioned kanina na you included choral in your recital ba? We can talk about that kasi for our listeners, as we said kanina in introducing Leah, na she has a bachelor's degree in choral conducting, correct? So maybe you can share with us why you went into that and why you decided to pursue it as your next degree in a way. I wanna say na you're a double degree holder na rin in a sense kahit DCPMA pa yan. So, imagine 'no, you thought na, "Ayoko mag-pursue ng music." Ta's biglang nag-double degree ka pa. So, can you just share a little bit about that rin?
Conducting was a surprise even to me. It was a spur of the moment decision. Like I said, I auditioned for a different department, and I was very sure for a long while, for like 3 years, that I was going to re-audition for that department. But during that time that I spent in the college, I know I was performing a lot with Tugma, but I also made it a point to keep singing. I would join choirs. I would join a lot of choirs in the college, choral conducting recitals. At some point, there was a performance. I think it was a premiere of a composition of a church musician. And he was a teacher, and I saw how this person translated that piece of paper basically to me into a performance. And I found that just really mind blowing. At the end of the concert, I just suddenly said, I want to do that. Oh, one of the things I didn't mention about my Asian music life is that we had a lot of research subjects. We had a lot of research subjects.
Because the bachelor's degree is a musicology, no?
Yeah, it goes straight to musicology. And the reason why I didn't want to go into musicology was because as much as I enjoyed the research and the data analysis part, I did not enjoy writing
What's usually
about.
like the musicology is about research. What's like
Mhm.
the can you like give like examples of what you were reading and stuff? Because like I've always been curious, pero I don't know anything.
Honestly, well, the musicology subjects that I had weren't actually very Philippine focused. They were general music,
Ito ba yung parang music and
musicology.
culture
Yeah,
and
music and
societal?
culture. Yeah, so MUL 100, I think.
Yeah, I get now.
I actually don't remember anymore which ones were for my Asian music and which ones I took as electives during my conducting. But I did focus a lot more on performance because I enjoyed performance a lot. And as much as I did enjoy the research and the reading, ako kasi I've always been kind of a bookworm. Number one, I did not want to write. Number two, my grandmother was a musicologist. So until the point that I changed my last name, it is not going to happen. The pressure is too high. So I didn't want to be in the same exact field as my grandmother. Yeah, when I saw that performance, I realized I had been in a most of my singing experience had been in a choir. And the biggest reason why I did not even consider conducting in the first place was because I was terrified of leadership. roles, as in terrified, which I think I only developed in tugma, honestly.
It's very different, no, conducting. Kasi
Yeah.
parang, it's also performance in a way, but then it's performance of leading and making music through others, sort of.
Yeah, I get what you mean. Like the people are our instruments basically, which is why this pandemic is kind of a struggle. Because we can't be with people. We can't be with our instruments, like unlike the rest na, oh, at least I have my piano here, I can play. I'm fine. I don't have that. I can't do that. So that's the thing about conducting. Your instrument are the people that play for you.
Can you talk a little bit about yung audition process mo, or even when you were in the conducting, as someone with the perspective as a, in a way, second degree nga, parang, and someone who was already in the college previously, what was that like for you?
It was two very different things. I felt very pressured because I was already from the college, and the level of knowledge that you have to have as a conducting major seems to be much higher than for others, because we have to make musical decisions for other people, and that means we have to understand our music a lot. And as an Asian music major, like I said earlier, we would really separate ourselves from the rest of the college. So I wasn't really very proficient with my knowledge on Western music when I entered the conducting department.
Would you say it was, in a way, parang halos opposite siya? Kasi you mentioned na for Asian music, it was very communal. And then when it came to conducting per se, you were leading a group.
I wouldn't necessarily call it opposite entirely. One, because like I mentioned earlier, I think that leadership that we needed for that I needed for choral conducting, I developed in Tugma. I became an officer in Tugma also at some point. But one of the things with choral conducting is that you also have to admit that you don't know everything, and the people around you can also help you. So as much as you think that you have to make the decisions on your own, most of the decisions that we actually make are based on our observations of the people we work around. So, being very attuned with the people you work with is something I developed in Tugma and further developed even when I got into conducting. So in a way, I think my experience in Asian music really helped me a lot when I got into conducting.
I wanted to follow up lang nung kay Izzy, no? Like, because she mentioned opposites. But like, when I think about opposites, actually, I think one of the most notable things about like you specifically jumping from like Asian music to conducting, which by the way, I don't think not many people do. Like it's quite opposite. Because like when I think about opposites and your degree programs, I think about the like yung foundation of both degrees, both what do you call this? Majors, because Asian music is as it is Asian music. Pero ang history kasi ng choral conducting is very Western, right?
Yep.
Yeah, the practices itself are very Western. Like even the notations are different, even the instruments per se or like something like that. So, did you struggle? Like, how was the transition for you? Like, did you struggle a bit, or like, was it very easy for you to transition?
I struggled a lot. I know, like, the worst part pa about it was that I knew that people were expecting a lot out of me because of my grandmother. I know that there was big expectations for me. She was a teacher for Western music history, and I honestly at that point wasn't very, like, especially when I was in Asian music. I took those subjects when I was in Asian music because we're all required to take it. I didn't pay much attention to it because I wasn't thinking I was gonna go into choral conducting, right? So parang
It's too hard to like internalize because it's not really like practically used when you were an Asian
yeah,
music major. No?
yeah, like I mean, I know it, but that's all it is to me, knowledge na I've never put it into practice. So having to do that around 4 years, 3 years after I took the subjects on Western music history. It was very difficult. I had to brush up a lot on my music history. I would do a lot of reading on my own. I think I developed more of a study habit when I got into conducting.
Given, yun nga, you have both, quote-unquote, those degrees, what would you say is yung advantage now sa, kunyari sa work mo or the projects that you are involved in? But how are you able to merge those two practices?
Interestingly, Andre was part of this. My second recital, my graduation recital for choral conducting, I decided that it wouldn't make sense for me to do an entirely Western work. So I chose to do the Misa Arirang from Korea, which made just a lot of sense because when I entered choral conducting, I remember just thinking I have to put aside everything I learned as an Asian music major. And that was my mindset already. And then on my first enrollment, one of the teachers that signed my form 5 told me, "Do not forget where you came from." And I think that was such a big challenge for me to just told that you don't have to put it aside. You have an opportunity to explore other things. And I felt very fulfilled by that recital because I got to introduce it to the rest of the college because I used the chorus class for that. And like I said, very separated ang Asian music from the rest of the college, and being able to introduce that to the rest of the college was really a privilege for me and something very meaningful to wrap up my college life with, basically. Right now, I am working on a Santos work with Cherubim. It's a massive work. It's a children's opera that we are working on right now, and the conductor I am working with kept telling me that I'm so glad you understand this kind of music because it's very different. My experience from Asian music really helps me a lot to understand what we're doing right now. So it opens different opportunities for me, and it creates a very specific niche for me.
Share ko lang about her, yung recital na sinasabi niya. It was actually really fun because she perfectly managed to merge yun nga into opposite worlds if you think about it, like Korean mass.
What was your role there, Andre?
Usher, ganun.
Wait lang, ano nga bang role ko doon? Wait, kumanta ba ako doon?
Kumanta ka. Sorry, kapatay yung video ko.
Yes, see, I forgot. Sobrang dami kong in-usheran na recital. I forgot kung kumakanta ba ako or nag-usher sa mga ibang recitals.
Baka nag-usher ko like that. Tapos,
Pwede naman you did both. Para it's not surprising if you did both.
Sa first half nung concert, usher, second half, singer.
Kumanta.
Oy, madaming ganun ha. It's not
meron
weird.
nga, meron.
Hindi ko magets kung saan nanggagaling yung fear mo of leadership when you're basically saying that you're doing a Santos project with your children's choir, which is pretty much very challenging. So, hindi ko alam saan nanggagaling yung notion mo that you're scared of leadership. Kasi, naalala ko, I was with you during chorus class and you were very, very clear with what you wanted to happen and walang bahid na you didn't know what you were doing. So, feel ko, you really had it in you ever since. You just didn't know it yet, siguro.
I guess I just didn't give myself an opportunity to I just didn't give myself an opportunity to explore the fact that I could actually take leadership roles. I came from a very big high school kasi, so I didn't get a lot of opportunities to lead during that time. So I think that's where the fear of leadership came from.
So, as a Liya, with your Wo music life story, I cannot think of anyone better to be our guest tonight who could give us the most insight when it comes to the experience of, ewan ko, parang na-experience mo lahat. Someone who started out unsure if you even wanted to pursue music. Someone who landed in your not-so-first choice major. And I find it very unusual talaga na you get to mix both Asian music and conducting. Kasi diba usually it's compo and conducting, dance and voice, pero you mix two different worlds, and I find it really, really interesting. With your background and all of these, I'm honestly curious to know what kind of music or song you might have right now that you can share with us through our Song of the Week segment, where we share our thoughts and music tastes without the risk of future judgment.
Okay. So I think I watched one of your episodes recently and I was like, yeah, I wouldn't choose a classic. I wouldn't choose a classical piece for this either.
Amen.
Because
Amen. Amen to that.
Misa Ari lang na ba
yeah,
yan?
Yes, amen.
the amount of time that we spend on classical music, we need a break. So what I chose today is entitled Georgica Pond by Johnnyswim. It's just a vocal and an electric guitar. That's all it is. I guess very fitting also for tonight. I talked about how it was my dad that made me realize that I had a place basically in the music scene here in the Philippines. He passed away just a few months before my last recital in the college. Actually never saw any of my recitals because he was away for a long time before he got sick. Georgica Pond was one of the songs that I would listen to every time that I just needed like comfort. How do I say this? It's basically the message of a parent to a child. It just says na one day when I'm gone, scatter my ashes on Georgica Pond. And basically that I am around you. I am around you all the time. The thing about music is that it's a great source of comfort and it's a great source of solace, even when it's the one thing that you stress over. You still find a way to find comfort in music.
Your choice, is very interesting. I'm gonna make sure to listen to that one tonight pag nahanap ko siya. Very interesting, lalo with your very inspiring story. And, syempre, inspired ako here. Kasi, syempre, gusto ko rin before. I was really considering conducting until I saw yung audition requirements. So, I backed out. Hindi ko kaya. But, if we have future conductors out there who are listening to our podcast, maybe you have like a final message you want to tell them?
Or even the Asian music people.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sabi ko nga.
I guess the biggest lesson to all of this is that to not be afraid to explore different kinds of music, to explore the things that are beyond your comfort zone. Like for me, Asian music was very different from what I wanted to take up initially. Also, that I was very terrified about about taking leadership roles and getting into conducting. But sometimes you just have to take a leap of faith and you just discover that you're actually good at certain things. Don't be scared to try because there's a bigger chance of failing if you don't try. At least 50-50 ka if you try. If you don't, there's just no chance of you knowing what you're good at.
All right. That's a very nice way to end our episode for tonight. We're very, very grateful to have you again here, Ate Dia. Thank you for all your wisdom, your insights. And yeah, that's it. That's our episode for tonight. And if you guys have any questions, please do send them at fourpieceandapod@gmail.com. This episode will air on YouTube. We have a YouTube account. Please like, subscribe, follow. And this will also be on Spotify. Please follow us on Spotify. Everything will be down on the link as well. Down everything will be linked down on the description box below. All right. Together with Liya's Song of the Week and other links that we have for this episode. That's it. I am your host, Andre. I'm with Conch.
Bye.
I'm with Izzy,
Bye.
Yanni,
Hmm.
and our very special guest for tonight, Ate Dia.
Bye, everyone.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Goodbye,
Bye.
everyone.
Thank
Thank you for
you.
listening.
Good night.